Tēnā oh my God friends. It's Bishop David here. I'm pleased to bring this episode, this installation, this clip for our cyber church, our social networking praying community. In the late 90s, I was involved in a year and a half using a lovely Māori word, hikoi, a figurative walk, a journey. It was a formational training period where I worked towards becoming a spiritual director, and it is in the tradition of Ignatius. Really important experience of my life, and spiritual direction has been important to me for many years, on both sides of the table, as it were, both as a spiritual director and certainly as someone who has sat with a number of spiritual directors, as I strongly recommend that for all people of faith, clergy and laity alike. During that formational training period as a spiritual director, the person who was facilitating that experience, that hikoi, gave us a picture. And it's, I hope you can see this with some clarity. It's a very simple picture of a child, presumably, a wee one, being held in a hand. Just pause for a moment to make sure you can see that. I've kept this with me over the years. In fact, Ben was quite patient in between filming of episodes. I was trying to find a visual in this space I could talk about it, and I pulled this down from the wall, and I've kept it on various and sundry walls and various and sundry offices over the last however many years. People respond very differently when they see this. Some people would suggest that, well, you have this wee one being held in a hand or leaning up against a hand, and presumably for most, the hand would represent, well, certainly for myself, an image of God. Some would suggest that it's an overly domesticated view of God, an overly, how shall I say, to use the vernacular, an overly intimate, overly buddy-ish view of God, that God actually physically holds us in the palm of God's hand, and that might be uncomfortable for some, as if it's a sappy, soapy, again, overly domesticated theology. Others might find themselves very comfortable with the image. Well, you pay your money, you take your choice, and that's what we do theologically, and that's what we do with our perspectives. I want to suggest here for myself that I find great comfort, and if I'm really, really honest with myself, I do have this rather deep yearning to believe and to know that God is, as I've said on many occasions throughout my adult life, bigger than anything we could ever imagine and beyond anything we could ever conceive, but God is equally that close. And so I do respond, and this does resonate with me, that the notion and the experience of a God who holds us close to be anthropomorphic is a nice 50-cent word for putting human qualities on, in this case, God, that God holds us close to God's heart. Regardless of all the, what I typically call ecclesiastical trappings, all the rules and regulations and all the do's and don'ts and should haves and should not haves connected to the church over the centuries, I would suggest most deeply is our yearning for a God who's close by. Our yearning for a God who, in some sense, invites us to return to those days, those sometimes simpler days when we were wee ones, at the height of our dependency, at least our willingness to acknowledge our dependency, and to be held in the hand of God, close to God's heart. I hope this doesn't come across sappy and soapy. It's certainly not my intent, nor does it fit terribly nicely with my theology. But it does fit with my yearning for a God who is well, beyond and bigger than everything I've ever known or conceived, but also a God who's very, very close. Blessings, everyone.